You are now tuned in to the TRUENORTH.BET podcast with your host, Brandon Graham. TRUENORTH.BET, always a bet in the right direction. Understand right now that the NBA, the NHL is back in action. So make sure you go on TRUENORTH.BET, put in all of your votes, all of your bets down. Because, of course, if you do on TRUENORTH.BET, it's always a bet in the right direction. You can never go wrong. That's a fact. But this past few weeks, it's been an incredible run of NCAA football along with NFL football. Just absolutely incredible from on all fronts. But I'm going to start in the NCAA because there's just so many storylines that we can get into. But the first one is the AP top 25 that we have right now. And as I said for you from the start, the Ohio State Buckeyes, OH, are number 2 in the country behind Georgia, who are national or reigning national champions. This is incredible, right? We have CJ Stroud, who I believe right now is the front runner for the Heisman Trophy. But you have Hendon Hooker right beside him because this past week, the Tennessee Volunteers, for the first time in 15 years, beat, in their minds, their rival, the Alabama. Sweet home Alabama. Alabama with Nick Saban, Bryce Young coming back after a shoulder injury. Going through that game, going through pretty much not stopping each other on offense. Jalen Wyatt, Hendon Hooker with Tennessee, doing everything that they possibly can to actually beat the Alabama Crimson Tide 52-49 at home. It was probably the most electric crowd I've ever seen in college football. And that's after War Eagle, Auburn versus Alabama, the Iron Bowl. That's after Ohio State versus Michigan. That game, something about SEC football, country football, Tennessee, Alabama, where everything is college football. Same as it is in Ohio State in the Big Ten, but everything in the SEC is college football. And seeing that game with Hendon Hooker, Jalen Wyatt connected for not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 passing touchdowns, blowing the top over the defense, getting separation. Jalen Wyatt, excellent. And what Tennessee has done with Heupel at the coach, Heupel coming from University of Central Florida, being really great there with Dylan Gabriel, yeah, exactly right now, who is actually Dylan Gabriel, who's now the quarterback at Oklahoma, seeing what he's done with Hendon Hooker, with Jalen Wyatt, with their running backs, with their tight ends, with the defense as well, is incredible. Because this is the first time in pretty much my life, the time I've been looking and watching football, this is the first time in a while that Tennessee's actually been relevant. And now they're slated at 3. So you got Georgia number 1. They haven't lost a step. They look really good with Stetson Bennett at the helm. CJ Stroud, Ohio State Buckeyes, best aerial attack in the entire land. I believe the best team in the Big Ten, but Michigan's right there because they're at number 4. You got Tennessee at number 3. 5, you got Clemson. DJ Uiagalelei has been incredible coming out of St. John Bosco in high school, playing against Bryce Young in high school in those championships, being the number 1 and number 2 team in the country in high school for years. Now, after having that very bad first year, coming in for Trevor Lawrence when he was injured against ND, losing that game. Then, of course, last year when he was at the helm, not really looking his best, really looking scared, got killed by Georgia, got absolutely demolished by Georgia in that game. And of course, Georgia goes on to win the national championship. But DJ Uiagalelei has really stepped it up as a quarterback, and they're slated at number 5 in the country. They were a really good team out of ACC. Alabama's down to number 6. Okay, Alabama's number 6, but the way that Alabama is, the way that SEC is, you can possibly see a shakeup where you might see a bunch of pretty much if Ole Miss continues to win, Alabama wins out, some teams lose. You can possibly have a college football playoff with Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, and Ole Miss. Right? Lane Kiffin has his boys playing in Ole Miss. They're playing down there. They're doing an incredible. And that could possibly happen. It's not out of the question, right? Where you can see 4 teams from the SEC, the strongest conference in football, bar none, not even close, being in the college football playoff. But CJ Stroud would have something to say about that. Marvin Harrison Jr. would have something to say about that because from OH, Ohio, I would say Buckeyes are incredible. Defense a lot better this year. I'm really looking forward to the Ohio State Buckeyes going up against the Michigan Wolverines, because Michigan demolished Penn State last week, 41-17, even though they were down 17-16 in the second quarter. They turned it around. Blake Corum, Tyrone Edwards running by, like, that offensive line is ridiculous. John Harbaugh, a few years ago, we were saying that he should be replaced and should be fired. Now he's a team last year beating the likes of CJ Stroud and Ohio State Buckeyes in Ann Arbor. Now this year it's going to be in Ohio, so it might be a different story. But he's got those guys playing again. Those guys are running the ball. They have the best running game in the entire sport of college football. They're the best running team, and that's going to be really tough for Ohio State to stop. But I believe that the defense is better this year. The one thing last year that they had is that Aiden Hutchinson, there's some other guys that were really able to kind of rush CJ Stroud and stop him getting through his progressions. It's really hard for him to throw the ball around. This year, they don't have that. They don't have the pressure that they had last year. So I see Ohio State actually handling that in Columbus, Ohio. But they will be a really, really interesting, enticing matchup between those two teams at the end of the year. As you see, the game up north, the team up north that we call it, in the Big Ten. So that's going to be incredible. TCU is playing really good out of the Pac-12. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Charbonnet are doing a really good job at UCLA. Chip Kelly, many know, Chip Kelly actually was the former head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're now 5-0, running a similar offense and whatnot. But he's got his boys playing UCLA. They're 6-0 right now, beating Utah, beating some really good teams. USC, they're going to play really soon, and who knows how that game's going to go. But USC losing to Utah, not really looking too good, right? Not really looking good. It's really hard to beat Utah and Utah, but that team with Caleb Williams, Mario Williams, Jordan Addison, the Jerry Rice's son, Brendan Rice, they have guys in that team, and they still got beat by Utah. And Utah is 15 in the country right now. So you have a lot of teams that are playing. You got a lot of enticing matchups in the top 25 this weekend, or a lot of teams that are playing each other, and everyone in the top 5 or 7-0 or 6-0. Some bye weeks coming up, so everything will even out very, very soon. But it's looking very good and very, very interesting to see how everything shakes up, because college football is just, remember, once again, every week is a playoff. Every week you got to go up against a formidable opponent and assert dominance, assert yourself in the line scrimmage, control the line scrimmage, continue going from there, all in all from there, right? So it's going to be really interesting to see exactly how that shakes up. But Tennessee beating Alabama shook up a lot. They deserve to be there. Hendon Hooker has been incredible. What Tennessee has done with Heupel at the helm is that Tennessee has a lot of people in that state, just like Alabama, just like Texas. They have a lot of nil money, and nil money means name, image, likeness. So they have a lot of guys that Alabama would probably want, that end up going to Tennessee because they're getting millions of dollars to play in Tennessee. They're getting not bribe, but the game, this new age of nil money is changing college football. It's the reason why a lot of these guys are going to certain teams. The reason why the likes of Ohio State is staying really relevant. Well, they're always going to be relevant, but the likes of Tennessee, they've gone up there because they've been able to pay guys a lot of money and have a bunch of these recruits that would usually go to Alabama or usually go to Georgia because they get more exposure, because Tennessee's been so bad for so many years. So it's been really incredible to see how that goes, how that shakes up. But I can't wait at all until the end of the season. I can't wait every week. Every week's a dogfight. Every week's enticing. It's going to be incredible. So we'll see exactly what happens there. Now shifting to the NFL. And I spoke about this in the last podcast with Tua Tagovailoa. The fact that he was cleared to play against the Cincinnati Bengals goes out again. He's cleared to play now. He's cleared concussion protocol. They said that he's ready to play in next week. People are saying it's too soon. I agree. Well, you know what? I'm on the fence. And I'll say I'm on the fence because right now, Skylar Thompson's hurt, backup. Teddy Bridgewater's hurt. You don't have another option. You got to throw Tua out there. Plus, there's momentum. Miami was winning many games when Tua was playing at his best. And that's exactly what you hope happens when he's thrown back into the fold again. So it's really, really interesting to see exactly how that shakes up and how everything kind of pans out fairly soon. The Chiefs going up against the Bills was an incredible game. And Tony Romo said at the start of the game, hey, I see this being a 24-20 kind of game. It was incredible. All right. The fact of the matter is that Patrick Mahomes going up against Josh Allen is must-see TV at any point. Don't know why they weren't in prime time. That game should be in prime time and flex every single opportunity they have. Josh Allen's incredible. He spreads the ball out. They got a great win in Kansas City, just like they did the last year as well, being that team on the road. You can kind of see, no, you don't kind of see, you can see that Tyreek Hill is missed by Patrick Mahomes and the enemy in that offense because really and truly, if you key on Travis Kelce and put two guys on him and bracket him, you've got to get the ball to Juju Smith-Schuster. You got to get it to Mecole Hardman. You got to get it to Marcus Valdes-Scantling. And those guys are not as creative or in space as a Tyreek Hill. They're not as dangerous down the field as a Tyreek Hill. Marcus Scantling, he's very, very fast. But there's only one guy in the league that can command double teams, triple teams, and still beat it, and it is Tyreek Hill. So that's a major loss in their part. But it's still a game. You still got to play the game. Still got to see exactly what happens and go from there. Can you believe right now? Well, I can probably believe it, but the former offensive coordinator of the Buffalo Bills, now head coach of the New York Giants, is leading all coaches in coaching votes for coach of the year. New York Giants are well coached now. They have pace. They have a purpose when they're running the ball, throwing the ball. Whereas last year with Joe Judge, you didn't really see any purpose or any fight from them. They were just going out there and trying whatever, running really bad routes. This year is completely different. Brian Daboll is incredible. They beat the likes of the Ravens. They've won. They beat the Green Bay Packers. They've won games that they should not win. The New York Jets beat the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers. They're number 2 in the AFC East. Who would ever think that? Patriots are actually 4th in the division right now at 3-3. But Bailey Zappi is playing really, really well. And many are saying that it could be a QB controversy between him and Mac Jones, which would be really interesting to see later on down the line because Bailey Zappi throws if you really think about it, he throws a more precise or a harder ball, like a stronger ball than Mac Jones. He's won the last few games. He's been really in command of the offense. He's a guy that came out of Western Kentucky, played really well in college as well too, but was under the radar. But Bill Belichick always knows where to find these guys that he knows will produce in the league. And Bailey Zappi's doing that. Many are saying that it could possibly be a Brady Bledsoe kind of situation, but you cannot give up on Mac Jones. Mac Jones had one of the best years ever in college for a quarterback at Alabama with Devontae Smith, with Jalen Waddle, with John Mechie as well too. They were incredible. Najee Harris, like they were incredible. They didn't really lose. They didn't lose anything. And he's actually produced last year. He's a Pro Bowl player last year, right? So you still have to give him a chance to kind of get his feet under him because you've invested in him with a high draft pick. But Bailey Zappi can do the exact same thing. But they played teams that they should definitely beat as the Detroit Lions last week. They're supposed to beat those teams, of course, as you see it, right? But the Jets, Coach Salah has these guys playing. Okay. Even with Joe Flacco at the helm, Garrett Wilson out of Ohio, the Ohio State Buckeyes. He's a really incredible receiver there. You got Sauce Gardner at the cornerback position. You don't really see cornerback positions or corners because on defense, the hardest position to play is a corner because you're going up against guys that run 4-2s, 4-3s for a living on any play. And he's stopping legs of Allen Lazard. He's shutting down guys from games. We had Revis Island there before, but now you got Sauce Island, you can probably say right there. They have guys that are young. They have the most players under 24 in their team. They're a young team that just don't know any better, and they were going out there. And it's similar to the Bengals last year where they just didn't really know any better, so they're just going out there and playing, and they're winning. They're winning. They beat the Green Bay Packers last week 27-10, and that was a whomping. That was actual ass kicking. They beat them in all 3 phases of the ball. Breece Hall is running incredibly, and I said this before. Breece Hall out of Ohio State was always a great running back, but he slipped in the draft. New York picks him up, and he's one of the best running backs this year. Just seeing how they played. They beat the Steelers. They beat the Browns. They lose to the Ravens. They lose to the Bengals, but still number 2 in the AFC East. Zach Wilson's getting the ball out to his guys, Corey Davis, Garrett Wilson. Uh, Uzama is out there sometimes. You got Conklin as well. You got some guys on the outside and, of course, inside as well, too. They can get the ball to. So you have a lot. You have players. You have guys, and they're putting together. You can see they're putting together a lot better. They're doing really well. Number 1 in the AFC North is still the Baltimore Ravens, but they're still tied with the Cincinnati Bengals, who won their game last week. First time that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase has gone back to Louisiana in that dome, in the Superdome, beating the Saints as they should have. But the Baltimore Ravens should be, at this point, easily could be 6-0. They've beat themselves in so many games. They lost to the Miami Dolphins after being up by a lot. They've lost to the Bills when they should have won that game, going for 2 rather than going for 1. They've lost to the New York Giants in MetLife Stadium as well, too, because of costly turnovers and not getting the ball enough times. They really are one of the better teams in the league, but they've lost some plays or lost some games where you just think, like, what happened or why? How does that happen? How do you lose to the New York Giants when you're already up? How do you lose to the Miami Dolphins when you're already? It doesn't make any sense to me. And yeah, they're more of a running based team, but it's like you need to get those drives. You need to get good yard. You need to be able to drive the field on many occasions to kind of go from there. So that's definitely something that's concerning as we go. But the one conference that I spoke about quite a bit before the season was the AFC West. The Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, Raiders. It's been a letdown. Okay. The Raiders are 1-4. The only game they've won is against the Denver Broncos. The Broncos, Russell Wilson has been abysmal. They've given him $250 million. He's not a great leader, man. They're saying he's missing wide open guys. He played his best game of the year in primetime again on that night game against the Chargers. Didn't close it out. There was no first downs in overtime, and they ended up losing that game. You have a really good defense in Denver with Pat Surtain, Ray. You have a lot of guys. Surtain is one of the best corners in the league. He's shutting down guys, and he's just like his dad, but he's looking like he probably could be better than his dad. But they're not winning games, so they're not producing on offense. Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams out for the year. Yeah, Melvin Gordon, you got another guy as well too running the ball. They're not playing really well, and it all starts with the quarterback. Chargers are 4-2. You get that win last week, but you just squeaked it out. But Brandon Staley is still going on 4th down in every play. So it's like you don't really know exactly where his head's at. But you got the Chiefs, who are 4-2. The two losses they've had are explainable, right? It's one of those things where it just happens. It just happens. You play good teams. You lose to the Bills, right? You lose to the Colts. Colts game shouldn't have happened. It was just a letdown game because you're playing at Lucas Oil Stadium. But Patrick Mahomes has been incredible, and really and truly, it's him and Josh Allen as the 2 best quarterbacks right now. Kirk Cousins has squeaked in there, but it's because he has guys around him. I don't think Kirk Cousins is an MVP candidate by any stretch of the imagination. No chance. They almost lost to the Saints. So I would never, ever, ever in my wildest dreams ever say that they're going to be, that Kirk Cousins will be an MVP candidate at all. You got the Eagles, who are 6-0. They played really well, beating the likes of the Giants. Beating the likes of the Cowboys, the Giants, 5-1. So those teams, the NFC East, NFC Beast, many call it, playing very well, just far with the legs, the exception, of the Washington Commanders. The Vikings are 5-1. They beat the Miami Dolphins. They're going to be going up against the Cardinals very soon after their bye week. That should be another win in Arizona, but you never know with Kirk Cousins. You never know with this running game. You never know with their team. But I think O'Connell has them going at the right pace. The Packers are still second in the NFC North, but they've lost to the Giants, and they've lost to the Jets. They've lost to 2 New York teams. Can you believe they've lost to the Giants and the Jets? And the Aaron Rodgers team has lost to the Giants. How is that possible? But it's happened. Football, you got to play the game. It doesn't matter who you're going up against. You got to play the game, and you never know what would happen. The Buccaneers are still at the top of the NFC South. They haven't looked great. Atlanta Falcons look decent. They're getting up there as a 3-3, same record. And then you got the 49ers at 3-3. Rams at 3-3, Seahawks 3-3, and then the Cardinals at 2-4. Play right now. So there hasn't been a team that's really stuck out. I mean, like, hey, they're the most dominant, they're the best. Probably the Bills. You'd have to say that the Eagles right now. But other than those two teams, everyone else has just been floating by the wayside. But that's a good thing because it makes life a lot simpler. And really, what we can come down and say is that a lot of these teams that are starting 2-4, 1-4, they didn't play their starters in the preseason. They didn't do it. So that's pretty much on them. But I can't wait to get into more. I can't wait to get into this weekend. It's going to be incredible. I can't wait to watch more football and talk about it because there's a lot we want to do and a lot we want to see, especially in the NCAA, 100%, 10% in the NFL. Once again, I'm Brandon Graham. This is the TRUENORTH.BET podcast. TRUENORTH.BET, it's always a bet in the right direction. Let me remind you once again, NBA, NHL is back in action. Make sure you're putting your bets down at TRUENORTH.BET first and foremost at all times. Just hit this right there. It's incredible. It's a pleasure for me to be here. Anytime you disagree with me or you don't agree with me or you agree with me, let me know. TRUENORTH.BET, let me know. I'm here with you. I'll always be commenting, but I want to make sure you guys always remember to keep balling. I'm Brandon Graham. Take care, and I salute you.